The injection of false signature evidence inside a television broadcast is not as difficult as one might think, as illustrated in January 2008 by a Czech team of hackers injecting a nuclear explosion over a live television feed, complete with the special effects of flash, fireball, and electromagnetic transmission interruption. The spoliation teams were facilitated by contract AMEC labor teams on the ground at the target sites, coordinating the rapid removal of evidence by mobbed-up labor union trucks with power-locked GPS tracking satellite systems. These satellite systems monitoring the disposal route to docks and fresh kills prevented both the loss of the cargo during removal from Ground Zero to NIST investigation teams, to prevent the discovery of girders showing thermite cutting charges used during the controlled demolition phase of the operation that would reveal the real reason buildings dropped into their own respective footprints. The infiltrated trucking company drivers and dispatchers, using GPS and likely radar-sat tracking, made sure unidentifiable human remains, building refuse, and dust containing the evidence of demolition explosive chemical byproducts made it to the garbage dump at Fresh Kills landfill on Staten Island, while evidence contained in the structural steel made its way quickly to ships carrying the girders to foreign smelters in India and Shanghai, China, two countries that illegally shipped demolition explosive chemical precursors into Iraq prior to 9/11 that were very likely used in New York City, at World Trade Center, and inside the weaponized Boeing aircraft drones. The spin and spoliation task employed top officials in media, industry, and government who were entrapped and extorted in abusive son-of-boss tax shelters, originally structured to launder UN oil for food kickbacks by a KPMG cooperative based in Zug, the same location of Pakistani and Saudi bank accounts that were used to transfer funds through UAE banks into American banks in the Strait of New Jersey, another client of KPMG, and Sunbank in Florida to finance the flight school training. These funds paid for Department of Transportation pilot's license for Saudi hit team members that could barely operate a single-engine Piper Cub, much less a 200,000-pound passenger jet, and provided the living expenses of the hired al-Qaeda Saudi hijacking teams, and later the zigzag tactics to blame them using this paper trail. Sadly, the Department of Transportation is also a client of KPMG. The operation was coordinated by infiltration and remote command of the C4ISR, Command, Control, Communications, Computers, Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Network, requiring encryption codes to break in, with command transferred to the suspected virtual war rooms associated with the Center for Coordination Science at MIT, the home of alumni John Deutsch, another Clinton pardonee. Clients of KPMG in Chicago and New York, such as Boeing, or agencies such as the U.S. Department of State, State of Illinois, Department of Justice, or Transportation, which handed custody of their C4ISR systems to KPMG agents prior to the start of war games at 3 p.m. on Monday, kept their assets intact and managers alive. On the other hand, companies and agencies that failed or refused to hand over their C4ISR system to KPMG agents prior to 3 p.m. on Monday were attacked and their top officials killed, leading to massive payouts of premeditated fraudulent insurance and reinsurance contracts laundered back into the tax shelters as blood and hush money to silence survivors. Two examples of this kind of extortion hush money is seen in 2005, when a Senate subcommittee offered new details of how the accounting firm KPMG developed and mass-marketed questionable tax shelters from the late 1990s to late 2003. The Los Angeles Department of Fire and Police Pensions, a $10 billion pension fund, and the Austin Firefighters Relief and Retirement Fund in Texas, a $400 million fund, participated in more than half of KPMG's 58 deals for SC2 from 1999 to 2000 in exchange for, quote, substantial payments in the future, unquote. The two entities did not know that SC2 was illegal, the report said, and the two groups did not return calls seeking comment. Because of the extortion of so many companies and their equity positions, KPMG could just have easily performed their criminal activity in another location of their choosing. Historically, public perception has been easy to command by providing limits to the debate, such as that of guilt. Noam Chomsky has noted that, quote, the smart way to keep people passive and obedient is to strictly limit the spectrum of acceptable opinion, but allow very lively debate within that spectrum, even encourage the more critical and dissident views. That gives people the sense that there's free thinking going on, while all the time the presuppositions of the system are being reinforced by the limits put on the range of the debate. More often than not, state-provided and approved debate topic limits take public attention away from the crimes of the times, like Amex sabotage levee failures during Hurricane Katrina to trigger catastrophe bonds, for instance, only to have the crime uncovered later in a more controlled manner. But how could a cooperative of companies perform such an open, aggressive, and all-encompassing policy of corruption? A modern spin on an old mob tool: loan shark racketeering. The mobsters of old sent their children to Harvard, Yale, and Princeton to become algorithmic hedge fund traders or arbitrage lawyers, and found a new twist on a centuries-old loan instrument, performance bonds. KPMG marketed